No, President Trump is not going to take down the US dollar. Get that out of your head. Most obvious reason is that President Trump's wealth is priced in US dollars. But even if that was his goal, he's nowhere near powerful enough to do it. The US dollar is more powerful than any one person's position in this country, even if it's him and a group of billionaires. Before I go on, let me use a little bit more logic here. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and all of these other billionaires have this wealth and power because they have more of a concentration of US dollars than other people do. That's what gives them their power. Having these billions of dollars does not only increase their purchasing power, but it also allows them to take multi-billion-dollar loans to purchase other goods or businesses that they deem necessary and make investments off of. And because the United States dollar provides the largest pools of liquidity and debt on the entire planet, it gives people like Bezos and Musk this unlimited means to gain whatever they want. To say that these guys are going to take down the dollar and replace it with crypto or Bitcoin is the dumbest thing in the world, because there is no infrastructure anywhere near close to the dollar that cryptocurrency and blockchain currently provides. The military-industrial complex is powered by the dollar, and they have been bullying presidents for decades. Then there's China, which is sitting on over 750 billion US dollars in treasuries, and they're sitting on between 1.5 to 2 trillion just dollars in cash. So a takedown of the US dollar would lead to a total collapse of the Chinese economy and their currency. OPEC is one of the most powerful oil groups on the planet, and Saudi Arabia is the most influential economy in that group. Their currency is pegged to the US dollar. It's about 4 rial to 1 US dollar. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia agreed that oil will be priced only in US dollars, aside from a very few exceptions. That's called the Petrodollar Agreement. Saudi Arabia sells about $250 billion of oil. They also get to enjoy something called petrodollar recycling, where they get to take those dollars that they just got from selling that oil and they put it into US Treasury bonds at a modest interest rate. They are also sitting on between 4 to 500 billion US dollars in their foreign exchange reserves. There are several dozen other countries on the planet that have a large vested interest in the strength and power of the US dollar. Wall Street and the other stock markets in this country and just all over the planet see hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of trade in US dollars every single day. These are the largest financial powers on the planet. Then there is the number one institution with the most power over the US dollar. That is the Federal Reserve. And they exist technically outside the US government. They just cooperate with it a lot for the most part. Any policy that the US government implemented to weaken the US dollar could be easily thwarted by one of the many tools that the Federal Reserve has. If the Fed starts to see the dollar weakening, that's just more inflation. They can say, oh, okay, we're going to raise interest rates, and then the banks have to listen. Then, of course, they can allow all the treasury bonds, which are coming to maturity every single month, just allow to stay dead and not be renewed. And third, they could do something that the banks hate almost as much as raising interest rates. They could start increasing the capital requirements for each bank. Raising the reserve requirements means that there's a certain percentage of money that just has to stay in the banks that they cannot lend out. And that leads to a massive liquidity crunch. So if there was anyone in any position of power in the United States that was actually trying to take down the US dollar, they would have to contend against very powerful internal forces and external forces all over the world. That person trying to take down the dollar would most likely no longer be in that office. Okay, fine, but does Trump maybe want to weaken the US dollar? Okay, you're onto something. Just look at the strength of the dollar over the past 20 years as measured by the DXY. The US dollar gets to enjoy a host of advantages, even if times are good or if they're really tough. Even though the economy crashed during the Great Recession, the Fed printed so much money it became a free money bonanza for a lot of investors. But that can't happen when the dollar's this strong. And that is something that Trump wants to be responsible for, because if he can get the dollar to be just a little weaker or do whatever he has to do to increase more investment, especially when it comes to Wall Street, then he's going to be happy, he's going to get a lot of credit, and he's going to be able to implement more policies to his own liking. But like I said before, the president and just the overall US government is very limited with what they can do over the power of the US dollar. That is the Federal Reserve's purview. And the only way that the Federal Reserve would consider weakening the dollar with whatever policies it can enact is if they see inflation start to come down further. Because the Federal Reserve is trying to maintain the health of the overall US economy. I am the Geo Husar, and weak minds will believe something inherently because either one, they're afraid it's true, or two, they want it to be true. Thanks for watching.